All right, guys, let's get started. I'm sure there'll be a few more people trickling in. I wanted to welcome you guys to the SPP SQUID EPIC SmartForm Webinar presented by the Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation. So it's an honor to have you guys here today. We've got a great group of core speakers, and really excited to hear and share all their experiences and advice they have to get involved in this program. So again, just brief description, we'll demonstrate the SmartForms that the experts at Texas Scottish Rite Hospital developed for SPP and SQUID registry. Dr. Brandon Ramo and his team will show what they developed in EPIC, streamline their data collection and submission SPP, as well as how to roll out these SmartForms at other institutions. So a little who the people are. This is me. Picture was taken yesterday, so I look exactly the same as I did 15 years ago. I'm a pediatric orthopedic surgeon from Shriners in Philly. We got Brandon Ramo, who's a spine surgeon out there in Texas Scottish Rite. Brenda Matthews is with us. She's the manager of research analytics at TSRH. And then we've got, moving along, John Voorhees, the man from Stanford, pediatric orthopedist out there. Lorena Flocari, pediatric orthopedic surgeon at Akron Children's. And our own Marissa Fitzcoy is the manager of SPP at the Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation. So again, super great panel for us today. Looking forward to hear what they have to say. The instructions today for the webinar, please use the Q&A section to submit your questions. We're happy to, and we'll do our best to either answer them live, in the Q&A forum, but if there's one that pops up a few times, we'll definitely bring it up to the speakers and during each session. So again, we're going a little bit of intro. I'll be stepping in for Salil here. He's on the other side of the world. We're going to go know, and Dr. Ramo is going to talk about the history of EPIC SmartForms at TSRH, and Brenda's going to give us a little rundown on how she's done a great job integrating the SmartForms into EPIC to make it super easy. Marissa will show the REDCap workflow as well that she's developed at SPP. And then finally, we'll get to Lorena and John to look at the rollout process at other SPP sites. Okay, so first of all, my younger self will get back to talking about a little bit of introduction on everything that is SPP. So a quick rundown on SPP. First of all, I'd like to thank Medtronic. They've been a huge supporter of SPP, and we definitely couldn't do it without them. So thank you for all their support. So what is this? Well, initially the Harm Study Group, which is the main body of Setting Scoliosis Straight, started doing dashboard reporting about 15 years ago in 2011. And we had about 9 surgeons, 1,300 patients, and they got some very interesting data came out of that, where we noticed significant and sustained improvements in surgeon performance and patient outcomes. And it was very interesting, they talk about the Hawthorne effect, right? As soon as you turn the lights on, you start looking at stuff, and where you are relative to everybody else, all of a sudden everybody gets better. So it looked at reductions in OR times, reduction in hospital stays, and significant reductions in blood loss. All this is just from talking to other people and looking where you are in the process and seeing how you can streamline and improve your own. So as we said, it can improve your own surgeon performance. It definitely helped out mine, as again, just sort of looking closer at what I do versus what everybody else does. Provides comparative practice data. Where do you fall within are you in the average, above, below, quartile? And what are things you might be able to do to change that? And so highlighting, where you are above and below the mean as far as just some general OR information, and ways to kind of improve in treatment and decrease variability. This is, again, especially with scoliosis. This can certainly be something that could be a relatively homogeneous patient group that we can definitely work to streamline and decrease variability. And another huge part of SPP that I like, because I love reading and studying for those tests every year, but it can serve for self-assessment credits. So if you log in, I think it's 5 or 6 cases per year, which isn't much, they will send you, and you can certify maintenance of certification. So that will suffice for your 10 self-assessment examination credits each year for ABOS, which is massive because then you never have to take another test again, albeit as well, obviously, an improvement, to be involved in the program. Super easy to get involved. It's just for quality improvement only. It's not for research. SPP participants can include patients in this QI registry that are also enrolled in research registries, because it isn't a research registry. It's just involved for QI. There's no PHIs transmitted, so obtaining an IRB for this is quite simple. You can go through WERB, and the team at SSS can help you out. And they'll send you everything you need to know with as far as participation agreements, initiate registry access upon receipt, so you're ready to go. And this is how the whole program has exploded. I think this is a really cool slide. Back in 2017, they started. There was a handful of us, and then it's really exploded now to 255 members as of August. And look at all the metrics we have. This is also amazing. Harm Study Group just celebrated its 30th anniversary earlier this year, and they have about 7,700 AIS fusion patients. SPP has already surpassed that at over 8,000 AIS patients for fusions. CP neuromusculars is reaching 1,000, and even a huge chunk of non-fusions. So again, participants in each module, obviously the idiopathic scoliosis one is the largest, but anterior tethered neuromuscular and spondies are starting to catch up as well. This is just a map of the U.S. where it just shows how many states are involved, as well as the OUS locations. There's a number of countries throughout the world that are getting involved with this. So it's very, very exciting to see the reach of this program. So what are you going to see when you get your dashboard? So basically, comparative practice data that identifies areas of improvement and best practice models. So it just kind of sees where you are. I'm pretty sure this is Salil's. It's not mine because the quartiles are way too good. But it just shows you what your average correction is, estimated blood loss by case, and kind of where you fall within the group. Some other information looking at rod diameter, things like that, are also kind of available. Can get into the weeds. Looking at complication data in the first 90 days, these other occurrences, DVTs, PEs, and whatnot. And there's also a tether dashboard. This is kind of a mock-up of that. Again, looking at pre- and post-operative Cobb angles for singles, doubles, hybrids, anything along that road. There's a neuromuscular dashboard again, similarly, pre- and post-operative Cobb, looking at where it was, what your min, your max, and then also relative to the group. But this is also really cool. Now they have risk-adjusted dashboards. So everybody thinks that their patients have bigger curves, they're more obese or what have you, but this actually takes all of that into account and sort of spits out your raw data and then your risk-adjusted data. So you can kind of see that up at the top there. OR time looks at your, average is about 347 risk-adjusted, does come down a little bit, and EBL risk-adjusted goes up. So again, this sort of helps you to kind of compare apples to apples within yourself and other patients. So again, just looking at for your own data in your own institution for OR time, it can sort of see where you are and which cases met or exceeded your expectations. So are you kind of taking too long on some and faster than the others? This can really help streamline things for you, but also help to plan your day and plan with when you're talking to your anesthesia team on what to expect as far as EBL goes, OR time goes. Again, are you exceeding your expectations, which are these sort of gray boxes, if you will? Are you going faster with less blood loss? That's great. And these will kind of adjust over time, which is really helpful. Also, as far as length of stay, which again has been a huge decrease in many hospitals after we started looking closer at this. Include all the required data. That's going to get you the most accurate risk-adjusted dashboards, especially for OR time, EBL, and hospital stay. They're going to be made available to you by request only. Again, you have to get 5 of those in per year to get those SAE credits. And they will be distributed, I believe, twice per year. And then you'll get a reminder for 1- and 2-year follow-ups. And then here's Marissa's contact information. This is with a QR code and then her email to contact her anytime with any questions or to get involved. All right. So that being said, let's move on to our very first exceptional speaker, Dr. Brendan Ramo, who's going to talk to us about history of EPIC SmartForms at TSRH, old versus new methods. Brendan, take it away.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And, we were asked to kind of help share some of the things we've been able to do at Scottish Rite with the EPIC build and with Brenda's help and other folks. And so the purposes for me, I like quality work. I serve as the chief quality officer at our hospital, really for the orthopedics group primarily. I think POSNA and Setting Scoliosis Straight are kind of great institutions. We've been contributing to the dashboard, I think, since 2018, kind of early on. And then we put a lot of work into making this as smooth as possible with EPIC. And we know a lot of folks out there are either using EPIC or going to use EPIC soon. And so we wanted to share that. And then my ulterior motive is that we get a lot of people who reach out and ask us for help. And Brenda Matthews, I'm trying to get her brain downloaded into this webinar so that we can save her some time down the road. So that's my real motive. I'll just kind of give you the story. You know, at Scottish Rite, when I started here as a fellow, we did it by paper, like many people have done. We collect the SRS, now the 22R, of course, but we would collect that kind of information, and the patient would fill that out on paper. And then, of course, it would take somebody, usually a research coordinator or someone, or at some institutions, no one. It just gets stuffed into a file folder somewhere, but has to do the work to do the math, transcribe the information, put it back into the computer so we can use it. And then on the physician side, early in my practice, because we're a heavy research institution, we would do a SCOLI case, and then we'd have to pick up the dictaphone and spend 5 or 10 minutes dictating the case. That was step one. And here's my partner, Megan Johnson, highlighting how fun that is to do that. And then on step two, we'd be handed these paper forms, and we would get to do all the same work over again. And that would sort of drive me crazy personally. But I would do it because it was for the research effort. And then, of course, we migrated to REDCap, and we had kind of an electronic data capture while we were waiting to take on EPIC. But it was the same thing where I was doing the work twice constantly. And so the idea when we went live with EPIC 8 years ago was to try to build something that would actually save me time. That was really the motive. And we realized there were some important ground rules that you need a source of truth. And if you want the data to be accurate, it probably needs to be the attending. Although I will tell you, I do let our fellows fill out these data forms, but I try really hard to go and make sure they do it right, because it's often that they don't. Again, part of the big motive for me was that I don't like doing things twice for no good reason. And then the whole point of this really was that these forms could be used for multiple purposes. As Josh mentioned, to fill our research work and for quality simultaneously, and then, of course, for clinical care, i.e. my operative report. So the build was done like this. We utilized EPIC forms that are filled out a single time and then can be distributed elsewhere. The forms we've edited over time. So when we joined SPP, we immediately just looked at the variables that they wanted, and we put those into our forms, and then any other research variables that we want to collect. We then build surveys that are assigned to the patients, and they do these in clinic typically, or they can do them before surgery. And then all this data gets exported at the end of the day from EPIC to in a format in Excel. And for the purposes of SPP, we've just matched their Excel sheet, and I'll kind of touch on that, but I think Brenda will also do that. So what I thought I'd do is just kind of share a video of my workflow. So after I've done this posterior spinal fusion, we have a variety of SmartForms, but you'll see me, I'll select the posterior spine. That's our most commonly used one, honestly. And then we just kind of walk through the diagnosis, who our assistant is, a little bit about the patient, what the radiographic parameters are. And again, it's all the things that you would need to collect for research or for SPP. And then as time has gone on, we've added image navigation. And so that's something that some of us are using now. We added that to the form. We can describe the techniques used for correction, what implant system, the size of the rod, all those things that you saw on the dashboard for Josh earlier. We've decided to collect what kind of screw is used. We may drop that at some point and just point out where the screws are. But again, it's just kind of any discrete data point from the surgery can be done. And then one of the things I'll point out is that we don't do work that's captured elsewhere. So our nursing team documents estimated blood loss as an example. I'm not going to put that in. It's already in the record. Anything that anesthesia documents, same thing. No reason for me to capture that. I am the source of truth for neuromonitoring, though. And then things that are common, we just default those and have to remember to update them. After I've done that, let me move to the next one. I do my operative report. And I'll point out I've got this sped up a little bit on the video, but I've timed myself, and it takes me roughly 90 seconds to do the form. And then it takes me roughly 90 seconds to do a typical operative report for a typical AIS case. And so we've got, you can see a few little kinks to work out there when I made this video, but we've got a format that all of our 5 spine surgeons have sort of agreed to. We've got drop-down boxes for the simple stuff, drop-down boxes for osteotomies and things like that. But really this operative report that you're seeing me fill out is pulling in all the data that I already put into the form. And there's a few little things like the type of suture that, it's harder to get out of the form, or it's not worth putting in a research or quality form. But, the idea again is that the work's been done once and not had to be done a second time. So that's my operative note. And 3 minutes later, I'm done with all of that. Or I let my fellow do it and I spend just as much time checking their work. Recently, we've added a little X-ray section. And this is what I would point out is this is an iterative process. You build one form and then later you realize it needs to be updated. You forgot to do something. So we had these radiographic forms that we had built for our clinic notes, but we realized a little while ago that they could be in our operative reports just as easily. And so, now we're putting these directly in the operative report because sometimes the patient's gotten updated X-rays, the curve's bigger than their last clinic visit. And so this will now be the source of truth for us when we pull our X-ray data. So what happens next is all this data goes into EPIC, obviously. And then what we do is we do once a year in January, one of our quality team members creates a data export. And they take my 35 cases last year and they put it into an Excel file and they send me something that looks like this. And you can see the highlights are where something didn't get pulled or I didn't enter something into the form. And last year in January, it took me around half an hour to fill out the missing data form. So that did take me a little extra time. And some of my partners have complained about this a little bit, but the reality is the better job you do on the front end, then the less work you get to do in January to fill out your own data form. And so then what happens next is we have built this Excel export that comes out of EPIC to match SPP's REDCap. And so it's then quite easy for us to basically compile all this. And we just put all 5 surgeons on one Excel sheet. And we send this off to Marissa at SPP, and she's able to upload it directly into REDCap. We're now getting our patient reported outcome questionnaires directly from the patients as well. So there's no more transcribing or paper REDCap for the families. They do it right through the EPIC portal that they see in clinic or from home. Some of them do it from home actually before the visit. And what's great is this all populates into my progress notes in clinic. And so I actually know how the patient's doing based on their SRS scores before I walk in the room. And we're also now adding the promise measures. There are 6 promise measures that SPP you can upload. I think it's physical function mobility, pain interference, anxiety, depression, and 2 others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But we're going to collect those from our patients as well so we can upload those. So for us, I think the key ingredients, you have to have at least one, but it helps to have more than one MD who's willing to work with the EMR team. And we have a number of docs, it's not just me, who have contributed to these builds over the years. You have to have an excellent EPIC programmer. We've got Brenda, you can't steal her. And she's done a lot of the work and she's going to talk in a minute. It does help to have somebody who can extract the data. I think it's like SQL codes and things I don't understand. You do have to have a way to pull it out of EPIC, but once they're built, I think it runs pretty smoothly. And then we have a quality liaison. Charu is our fantastic director of quality, and she helps us clean the data, make sure the surgeons will actually fill out their Excel sheets before we send it off. So that's our team, and that's kind of the physician side. And so I'll turn it over to others. Thanks.
Brendan, great job. Excellent talk. And I love the videos, and I am amazed. I just had a surgery before I got here today, and it did not take me 90 minutes to do my operative report. So that's fantastic. What's your advice to the group who like how long was it when you started this initiative till when you had it sort of to where it is now? About a year?
Oh, I think it's a several month process, and I think you'll get to hear from Lorena and John about how long it took them. Our hope was that it would be a bit plug and play, and I think we're getting closer to that as Brenda's work builds. But it's a several month process, and it's iterative. I would say that we're constantly tinkering, and you realize you're clicking the same button on your operative report, so you figure out how to, hey, Brenda, can you do a drop down that pulls out of the form so I don't have to talk about osteotomies and things like that. And here's the script that our billers need when we mention osteotomies and how we do them. So I would say it's an iterative process. It just kind of keeps slowly getting better over time.
Are you allowed to do osteotomies at TSRH? I thought that was outlawed.
Rare circumstances.
Couldn't resist. All right, sorry. Moving on. Moving on to we're going to introduce Brenda Matthews, who you heard already had a great introduction. Again, manager of research analytics at TSRH, and has really been a huge catalyst for this whole thing. And so really looking forward to her talk on integrating the SmartForms into EPIC. This is fantastic.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, sounding good.
Awesome. And you can see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Ramo was a little bit generous in how long it took us to get to where we are today. We've been live right at 10 years, and we did work quite a bit together in the beginning. And you do need someone that talks the medical lingo and someone that talks the IT lingo to work together to be able to get these forms done. And Dr. Ramo has been an amazing advocate. I've worked at a lot of EPIC. I've been doing EPIC for 25 years and worked with a lot of physicians. And he's been really great at just getting in there and us working together to understand what each other needs out of the process. And our entire goal of what we're doing today is so that you don't have to spend that time. You can download our smart forms. You do have some work to get them up and running in your particular organization, but we very much want to help other organizations not have to spend that large amount of time building these smart forms from scratch, because in that surgical smart form that he showed the video filling out, there are over 2,000 smart data elements that have to be individually built in order to pull all the data that we wanted to for our spine surgeries. So I created this document, and it is going to be shared with you guys. And it's really just the things I used and how I built all of the forms that we use. It's the first section of this Word document kind of talks about our 30,000-foot view, what we did and how we went about doing the process. Our goal is that you don't have to build each one of these smart forms out. You can download it from our systems and then tweak it a little bit. So I won't go over every step of what we did, to get to where we are today, but we would want that you could download these smart forms and have your EPIC representative reference this SLG in EPIC. And in this SLG is a downloadable form where they could download these smart forms into your organization. Once you have those downloaded, this document picks up about how you need to plug those smart forms in the different places. And I started at how the workflow works. The first step in the first smart form is for your office visit. And so we've got a new scoliosis patient smart text. And if you guys use smart text at your organization, there is an enormous amount of code that lives in that smart text. You don't see the code when you pull the note up, but when we build it, we're pulling your last vitals. Those RFVSS are review flow sheets that are pulling in questionnaires. These are smart note writer smart forms. The spine rad one that Dr. Ramo talked about, being able to enter the radiology data, that is done in this smart form. And in the next slide, I show you how do I build my note writer smart form. Now that you've pulled down our spine rad smart form, you just need to make a smart link that puts that into your note. Your EPIC folks who do builds should be able to pick up on exactly how to build the smart link that drops the note writer smart form in your note. And these kind of just walk them through it step by step. Then we look at how to get this surgical smart form in your pre-op activity. And so we have multiple different types of smart forms that we put in our OR case in the post-op activity, so that you can then pull up the spine surgical smart form. And this tells your analysts how they can get this little menu available in your post-op activity. Then we come down here, and this is all of the smart forms and how you add them to that menu. And then this is our spine op note. And it is chocked full of information. And this is where Dr. Ramo really shines in saying, I want it to say this, and this is where we're going to plop in this data element. And in this particular note, we have a smart list that has multiple smart texts. And so this smart list highlights this particular smart text that then pulls in the table of data from the smart form. There's a lot of other, these little CUI, ENC, comma delimited, that pulls in information from the SmartForm as well, but this is the surgical SmartForm, the table that pulls all of the information from there. Then for immediate post-op complications, we added to the discharge navigator the Setting Scoliosis Straight complications SmartForm. And this is how you would add that to your discharge navigator, step-by-step instructions on how to add that. And then for your 90-day post-op complications, when you're back in the office visit, this is how you can add your post-op complications. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. This is how you can add the complications to your rooming navigator of your office visit, so that when you see the patient 90 days post-op, if there are complications, you can collect that there. This next one, this is just telling you now how to build it, the navigator section. We do a lot more things with our EPIC build. We do EOS 3D recon data. If you guys do EOS 3D modeling at your hospital, where you send the spine images off and they build the 3D recon and they send you all of that data, we built an interface to pull that data directly into doc flow sheets in EPIC. That would kind of be a 2.0 for your project once you get the basic SmartForms filled out. So I would, if you do use EOS data, that's a really cool project to get into. As part of some of the stuff we want to share with you guys, it's that build document. These are our new patient SCOLI notes. And I kind of highlighted and noted in here what all of these different pieces of code do and pull. So this first one pulls our SCOLI HPI intake, our ASQ, our menarchal status, our birth history, things like that. So you can kind of take these notes, and this is where it's going to require a little bit of work from you guys, is to, do I want that in my note? Do I need to build a link for that in my note? If I do, I need to build it from the questionnaire. So this is where you start doing a little bit of what's specific for your organization. But our hope is that the SmartForms will get in the op note, will get you 75% there, so that you don't have to build all of those things from scratch. And so we're happy to share the notes with you. This is our SQL query that we use to pull all of that data. And whenever we talked about our SmartForms and the 2000 data elements, that is what we've got in here. If you're a SQL coder, this is like, I don't know, it might be either a nightmare or music to your eyeballs, but this is the query that we use to pull this data. And then I've blanked out a lot of things here. But then once we get that data, this is where we drop it into our REDCap form, so that every physician doesn't have to go into every surgery and document that individually. You're pulling all of these 40 patients for the year and getting all of that data at once. You might go in and fill in a few holes, like Dr. Ramo said, but it's immensely faster than doing each one individually. So that is about what I've got. I have no idea if I was on time, if I've got more time, less time, but I'm happy to pass it off. Awesome. Thank you.
Brenda, that was awesome, and a whirlwind tour of things. I did about a quarter of that, but that's, I'm getting quite glad folks like you exist. Real quick, I think two things to touch on I want to make sure we get to. So you mentioned it was shareable, right? You guys have been putting a lot of work in, and thank you for that. This is really incredible and a game changer for all of us, so we can not have to do all the foundational work that you've done. What's the best way, Michelle or Brenda, how do we have access to that, or be able to share that information you have?
In that document, the build document, we mentioned the SLG ID. What you need to do is ask your person at your organization who works on the EPIC team, ask them to reach out to their TS, which is their technical support at EPIC, and say, I need these forms downloaded into my system. Only EPIC TSs can take those forms and download them into your instance of EPIC. And that SLG is exactly what they need to be able to do that.
And do you anticipate any headaches, right? So say, you don't have a great advocate like Brandon and yourself at your institution. What's the best way that you would want or to reach out to your folks to help facilitate that rather than saying, I want this?
Is that
you being the IT person, the surgeon is going to come to you and say, I need you to build this now. Like, what's the best information? What's the best way they can kind of initiate that process at their institution? Having this completely new to maybe someone at their institution.
Yeah.
Any advice?
And yeah, every organization to get their EPIC build is slightly different. It usually starts with a help desk ticket. And almost every hospital not almost every hospital I've ever worked at, you go to your help desk and say, I want to download these forms, call your help desk, say, I want to download these EPIC forms from Scottish Rite, and you can reference that SLG ID. That'll go to your EPIC IT shop. It should get routed to them. Some people are, pretty close with their EPIC folks at their organization, and some of them can just email them, but they will probably, larger organizations are always going to want a help desk ticket to kind of get the ball rolling.
Great. Thank you very much. Great job, Brenna. And we'll, again, please submit your questions to the Q&A section. We're happy to answer them. Now we're going to move on to our own Marissa, who's going to talk to us about the REDCap workflow with SPP. Marissa, take it away.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go over the SPP REDCap workflow with you. So first things first, you have to know if your institution is approved for REDCap. If not, you need to reach out to REDCap to ask for access to the software. You will need a valid end user license agreement with Vanderbilt University on behalf of your institution for them to give you access to the software. You will also need to make sure that you meet all the technical requirements for REDCap. That includes a web server with PHP 8.0.0 or higher, a MySQL database server, SMTP email server, and optionally a file server. And then once all of that is squared away, REDCap will send you the software. And once you have it established at your institution, you can request from me the SPP data dictionary, which, for the SPP data dictionary in REDCap, like I said, you could just request it from me, and then it can be imported into your REDCap. But just to note that REDCap, their licensing terms does state that all IT support must come from within your institution. So while we can provide some general information, we can't actually do the build for you. So to just go over real quick how you can collect and export SPP data using REDCap. First, you have to log in. Once you're logged in, you go to My Projects at the top of the page. You'll be able to select the module that you're wanting to work in for SPP. From there, it'll pull up the module homepage. You can go to the record status dashboard, which will list all of your entered cases, the view edit records, which is going to be where you add new cases. You'll have your project bookmarks, which are your measurement guides. And then under the quick task window that pops up, there's the export data button, and that's where you can quickly export your SPP data. So to enter a new case, you're going to click on the view edit records. Another window is going to pop up and you'll hit add new record. REDCap will go ahead and give that case an ID, and then under status, you'll go ahead and click which form you're looking to fill out, and you'll go ahead and fill out that form. You will need to make sure that the surgeon initials that you're entering aren't already in use. From there, you can look at all of your cases that are entered under the record status dashboard. So again, it'll show you all the cases you have entered, which forms are completed, which still need to be completed. And this is also where you can edit any patient information. In order to edit in order to export your data from REDCap, you can either go from that quick task window that pops up when you log in. just click the export data button, or you can also go in the right-hand column where it says data exports, reports, and stats. Click that button. They're both going to take you to the My Reports and Exports. From there, you'll just click the export data button, which will pop up in another browser, the data that you have entered. If you click the view report, it will just show you in the same browser all the case data that you have. From there, the export from REDCap can be entered into our SPP import template. This is just kind of an example of part of it. You just populate the corresponding columns, and then you can send the completed import template back to me. And just to note, it doesn't have to be EPIC or REDCap. This import template can be used with any EMR export. So, it's pretty versatile. Just some perks of REDCap. It has a low IT infrastructure requirements and dependencies. It's easy to import and implement the SPP data dictionaries, and you can send surveys directly to patients and have an internal database to securely store your responses. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Great job, Marissa. Thank you very much. That was awesome. Excellent one. All right, so now we're gonna just keep it moving. We'll kind of swing back to you, Marissa, at the end with some questions that may pop up about REDCap, just to kind of keep things rolling. So now I'd like to introduce Lorena Flocari from Akron Children's. She's going to talk to us about EPIC SmartForms beyond the Epicenter TSRH rollout process at other sites, which I think is really interesting to hear about, because I am in the boat she is. All right, go ahead, Lorena, take it away.
Yeah, so as a TSRH fellow, I saw this in action, and I felt like at a medium-sized institution that the best way to be able to collect high-quality data would be to build something like this similar. So when I first presented this to my EPIC team, this was kind of a foreign concept, and I was having trouble making any forward momentum. So thank you, Brenda. My EPIC team communicated directly with you. You shared templates, discussed workflow. I think at the time that we were not able to just plug this in. So we actually had to build ours manually. So this was a lot more work than I anticipated. I think it's amazing that you're sharing these now, that other people might not have to start from scratch. But we then had to take what you did and then adapt it for our own institution, our own preferences. I went back and looked, and I think I met with an EPIC analyst weekly for over 6 months. And then there were a lot of iterations after that. So it was a lot of work up front, but I am so glad we did it. I just had to specify every response, how it was displayed. I selected the defaults by etiology. So a lot of what you had already done, we just had to adapt to our own institution. I went back, I pulled some of the notes I had done during that time period, and so there was a lot of editing involved with just trying to get it to look the way that we wanted to. And it's pretty good at generating an op note. So instead of doing a lot of drop downs, we just opted to do a lot more smart form buttons. That seemed to be a better workflow for our site. And so we really don't have to tweak it very much after we select all of the buttons. This is what our op note looks like. Everything needed scripted, though, as you alluded to. Like, you have to type out really everything that you want and where it plugs in and how. And so this did take a lot of work, and I think it really does need to be done by somebody that is doing the surgery or knows kind of the steps of the surgery and what's appropriate. So this time up front has definitely paid off. It has automated our data extraction for really high quality data that minimizes manual chart reviews, manual data entry, to help facilitate research if you may have like a minimal support staff. And then I think it's been great to get everybody to buy in, because it does make the op note really easy. Even for people that might not have research in mind, like they see this as a really valuable tool. So for our workflow, same thing. Surgeons complete the smart form op note, research coordinators can access this. And then these discrete variables now live in the EMR, and you can pull them for quality or research projects. So we have a data analyst that, same thing, built a way to pull this, and then we separate it into separate templates depending on where that data is going, and then export it. And then we've expanded this to other uses. So this is our outpatient smart form. I know Brendan mentioned the same thing that they have there, but this is a hyperlink embedded in notes to capture X-ray data. And then again, these data points live in the EMR, and you can easily pull them and export them. You can easily view and track the last X-ray measurements when you're in the midst of a busy clinic. So it's also a valuable tool to save time. And then similarly, we built PROs into MyChart. So these questionnaires can be either completed remotely via MyChart by the patient at home. I think our response rate is maybe 5% doing that. So that has not been super successful. And so I think it's really key to have patients fill it out at their visits via tablet. And then all of these responses can then be extracted into Excel and exported. So really trying to minimize manual data entry wherever possible. So my team is similar. I have some really key and amazing EPIC designers and builders. Nicole and Jacqueline were the ones that built the SmartForm, and then Michelle built our MyChart questionnaires. And then we have a great data analyst who built this master data poll into Excel, and then we have somebody who really just kind of takes ownership of that data, tracks down missing data, and then exports it. So I'm really grateful to TSRH for their help. I'm happy to help anyone trying to build something similar.
Outstanding, Lorena. Thank you very much. I think it's, again, great to see what you took from TSRH and then brought it to your own institution, which you may not have had the same infrastructure that you did at TSRH, but starting at your own place, I think, is a good benchmark for a lot of folks out there who are going to be in a similar situation and may not have all the resources at their fingertips immediately. Great. Let's move on quick to John, and then we'll kind of come back with questions for the group. John's out at Stanford. He's going to talk us as well about SmartForms beyond TSRH and the rollout process at his site.
Great. Thanks, Josh. So I'm John Voorhees. I'm at Stanford, and I had a similar experience, I think, as Lorena, getting to see how these forms worked at Scottish Rite. And I was unlucky enough in my training to live through 4 different EPIC rollouts at different hospitals. I was like just the right age to see that. And Scottish Rite's was definitely one of the most amazing ones. They had the CEO of EPIC come out and give a talk to us, and really did some amazing work with Brenda putting all these things together. So I became interested in exporting it and trying to get it to work with our system. But similar to Lorena, I think I did have some unanticipated challenges. So I wanted to kind of go through some of those and sort of how I have overcome some and decided to agree to disagree with some of the other ones to make it functional at my institution. So, Lorena mentioned her inability to sort of download and plug and play, and that was our experience too. So we were able to, Brenda was super helpful. She also communicated directly with some analysts at Stanford in the beginning stages of this. And at a certain point, the analyst told me that it would be easier for me to just get a screenshot of their form and then they could build it from scratch. That was a big challenge, and through multiple meetings with Brenda, we kind of managed to work around that and use some of the hard work that they've done. But I think it's important to emphasize that, and Brenda can please correct me if I'm wrong, but there are so many idiosyncrasies with each individual EPIC build that a lot of the mapping of data elements is site-specific. And so even though it looks like the same size and shape of a button, it can't just be directly imported using the same text and the same background coding. That the behind-the-scenes stuff is very different institution to institution and requires a lot of customization. So have that right there, Brenda?
That is correct. We have just recently, I would say since we've set up this webinar, had EPIC extract our SmartForms. They are all custom smart data elements, and some organizations have pretty strict policies about not importing other organizations. They want strictly EPIC Foundation smart data elements in their system. We've downloaded SmartForms from nationwide And so, we're pretty facile with that and don't have any technical issues with that. But again, we've just recently packaged them up so that people could download them. And the SmartForms are just the beginning. Like you say, Dr. Voorhees, there's a lot of work that goes into then plugging all of those data elements into your notes and doing the smart links for that, for sure.
And so when we embarked on this project, the analysts kind of projected, a year to put all this together. And so we decided basically to overcome some of that, to really scale back a little bit and sort of use like, what are the critical data elements and what are the cases that we really want to capture with this most. So we started just with AIS, and the build that they have at Scottish Rite is super detailed, and you can, through branching logic, click your way through most surgeries that are possible in the human spine. But that's, not the primary goal, I think, of the first stages of the SPP. And so we wanted to say, okay, well, let's start and see if we can create a successful model with AIS, and then we'll branch out from that. And so with just starting from there, we were able to kind of pare down the form into a sort of a bite-sized thing for our analytics team to figure out. And then we started adopting it for op notes, and that was really critical, like Lorena said, to help get buy-in from partners, because I think I was excited about this in research, and then you might find at various different institutions that you might have partners that have variable interest in research and QI initiatives, but everyone's interested in clinical efficiency, and I think that's a big selling point for how you can make your op note work faster and your workflow work more quickly. And so I think customizing it and involving your partners in that customization process was something that I think we got lucky and did well, so that you're not sort of making someone else click through a form that makes sense to another surgeon, but you're really collecting the minimum data elements that you need to quantify, and then working with your with surgeons at your institution to make it so that their op note still looks like their op note and not a generated thing that doesn't have the personality and the uniqueness that they really want to convey. And so another sort of challenge that we had initially rolling it out was, we got the op note thing working, but then getting the data out of EPIC was a whole other big problem. And so at Stanford, we have a few different pathways that have been around for a long time to get data out of EPIC. We actually have, as EPIC started, there's this like shadow indexing system at Stanford, which downloads all of the data to another format that you can sort of do searches for IRB approved cohort identification projects. And then there are ways that, the business analytics team can extract discrete data elements into Excel files. And then, recently there's ways now where we can get discrete data elements extracted directly into REDCap and skip the sort of intermediate comma separated values file. And so the problem with all these individual things is they cost money. And at our institution, we kind of have to divide resources over many different departments. And so for us, the sort of way that the IS department funds research is by charging for individual projects to extract data elements. So we basically started in a hybrid format and said, we don't have the sort of money to extract this for QI purposes. So we started basically collecting the data with SmartForms, but we had no way to get it out. So there was still sort of a manual component where we had a research coordinator that had to go in and manually take this stuff down and put it in our own internal REDCap before we could export it to a registry. But then since then, we've been able to finagle different ways to sort of lobby for support from our institution. And this is something that I think it could probably be easily worked out other places. So, everyone is interested in their U.S. News and World Report ranking. That's something that, makes heads turn and eyes pop open at higher levels in the hospital. And I think also now that the POSNA is creating this, safe surgery program and indexing institutions based on, their ability to meet quality metrics and participate in things like this. I think that that was something that we were able to mention to our administration and say, hey, look, we need you to devote some time and resources. We need you to bump us up on the queue of problems that EPIC analysts have to solve, so that we can do this for the benefit not only of our patients, but also for the profile of the institution, which made things move pretty well. And then another component of it, I think, is the customization in the actual op notes themselves. And so, there were some, Brandon mentioned some data elements that they sort of didn't put in because they were put in other places in EPIC that we brought in. And so we had to sort of work with our EPIC analysts to fix a lot of broken links and bring in data elements that we wanted in our op note. And so we started doing things like they collected, the types of screw that we placed at each level. We've sort of also started collecting it with some of the implant logs within EPIC. And so our nurses have to scan barcodes for each, screw that we use or each rod that we use. And so that's now a discrete element in our EPIC. And so instead of having to click each type of screw and where it goes, we already have a log of all the implants that went in. We can feed that directly into our op note, so we don't have to do that manually. Also, we worked, with our anesthesia team to more, standardize the way that they document ins and outs and EBL and things in their anesthesia record, and we can feed that into the op note as well because many of those data elements are important for the registries and research that we do. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it from the Stanford perspective, but happy to answer any questions about how our rollout went and continues to go, because it's an iterative process.
All right, great job, John. Thank you very much. Lorena, thank you very much. And to all the panelists, this has been enormously helpful. It's kind of a bit of a whirlwind. So I will say before I forget, just so you guys know, if you've had trouble kind of keeping up with some of these topics, if you're an EPIC newbie like myself, the webinar is recorded and it will be out on the SSS and SPP YouTube channel in about a week. And the surgeons can direct your kind of EPIC folks at their respective institutions to check it out. Also, Michelle wanted me to let you guys know that Brenda's instructions from her awesome presentation that she had, which I wrote down all those numbers perfectly, that will be available and sent out to all SP participants by sometime next week. So just a note for that, if you guys missed anything, that'll be sent to you guys, and this is being recorded. Question we wanted to ask the folks here. I've got one for you, Marissa, and then we'll go to the ones from the Q&A. What's the number one hurdle, Marissa, that you've encountered that you get from surgeons and participants that they've had initiating this process? What's the main question you get most often?
It's definitely data input, just the time it takes for surgeons to enter the data required for SPP, the number of cases. So anything that can help with the automation of it, or, just the EPIC or REDCap easy extraction of data is really a perk for most prospective SPP participants.
Great. Okay, we got one in the chat, and then one actually from Dr. Larson, who's one of our other huge EPIC champions, from Renee Young, asking the group, has anyone created macros for the SmartForms? Your forms are all held under one dropdown. Is this seen by all surgeons no matter the specialty, or have you set it so that only orthodox see them?
Yeah, I was typing an answer, and I'm not sure if you're asking us specifically, but in that menu, we do put all of our SmartForms because some of our physicians do hips and spines, and we don't have an enormous amount in there. There's probably 7 or 8, but you could filter in that menu by physician specialty. You can do a few different things of ways that you could filter that if you wanted to.
Great. Excellent. And then Noel just want to note as well, that's a good point that some hospitals have what she describes as a data lake, where data from EPIC or Cerner is stored elsewhere, as John was describing. So other hospitals store data only in EPIC or Cerner. So extracting this obviously is an important part of the whole process. That's something that's been very challenging for us at the Shrine, where it's a bit of a firewall. It's a massive one. So that's been an issue for us. We're sort of chipping away And again, thanks to Brenda and folks like Marissa as well for initiating all these things, trying to make it easier for us so we can get that out to all institutions, both large and small. All right, let me just check, make sure there's no other questions. Any other points anybody wants to make, or we will end a webinar early, which is amazing. No? All right. Well, first of all, again, have to have a special thank you to Medtronic for sponsoring our SPP program. This has been a huge thing for us and for I think our patients and our surgeons as far as collecting data. And so Medtronic's been a huge part of supporting this, and we're very grateful for them. And thank you guys all for attending. I want to remind you, please help us by answering a few survey questions, which will appear after the webinar is over. We want to make sure that each one of these gets better and better. And certainly contact us at any time. There's Marissa's emails down below, or you can visit us at the settingscloseststraight.org registry site at your convenience. So again, thanks to Marissa, Lorena, John, Brandon, Brenda, and Michelle and Harvey, everyone at the SSS Foundation for all your help and hard work, and for you guys for lending a hand this evening and telling us about your experience. That has been enormously helpful for myself. And I'm sure for all the, how many we got on? I think we had like 70 at one point. So that's bananas. Great job, everybody. All right. Thanks so much, guys, and have a great night.